Hey guys, we're here to go over nonverbal communication today. This is the second part of the Unit 1 lecture. First thing we're going to start with is nonverbal communication. Another term for nonverbal communication is body language, basically facial expressions, hand gestures, head movement, just the way you speak with your body, things that people can see. It's a crucial form of communication right along with verbal communication. Really the same importance altogether. Examples include your posture, gestures, facial expressions. Listener may be more influenced by nonverbal signals, and other than words, imagine if your hands or your head are going really, really fast, and somebody's intimidated by how you speak, or if you're eye rolling, looking at your watch, falling asleep during a meeting or in an interaction with a patient, then that could relate to negatively. It could negatively influence them or affect them. Gender differences in nonverbal communication. Men and women differ in the way they use nonverbal communication. Women are more facial expression driven and more often use them than men, and men are more relaxed but use more gestures with their hands and pointing directionally speaking, and really speak more with their hands. So something to think about. Men use staring to challenge a powerful person, and women tend not to stare. It's just some little nuances there. Nonverbal communication can be very depending on person's cultural backgrounds, and you need to think about different things mean different thing. Different things mean um, different. Different gestures mean different things in different areas. That's what I was trying to say. Gestures like the one you see, sometimes that could be like the American version of the middle finger when you have your hand like this in different parts of the world. Also, in some cultures, you only shake with you don't shake hands, or sometimes you only shake with a certain hand, or right or left. It's just you need to know and be aware of those cultural differences so that you don't offend the patient that you're taking care of. Also, touch, eye contact, things like that can be affected. If you are maybe dealing with a patient from the Middle East, a female patient, some of their culture is a little different than ours is in America, so you want to make sure you know exactly what you're dealing with. Um, Proximometrics, basically all that is two different things: personal territory and physical territory. Think about this concept as like your personal bubble. Like if you're invading my space, you're inside my bubble. A good rule of thumb to remember here is if you're inside somebody's bubble and that's an issue for them, it could be um, a problem in the future if you're within their bubble, if you're stepping in their bubble, if you are making them uncomfortable by being too close or touching them. Um, that could be an issue. So the size of an individual personal territory definitely varies. Some people are more touchy-feely, meaning like hugs, high fives, things like that. Some people just like head nods and waves. So you have to be cognizant of that when you are dealing with different patients. Until you build that professional rapport with them, it's just good rule of thumb to stick to high fives, handshakes, and fist bumps, and then go from there. To go with that, just always think about touching is always in the eye of the beholder. And what I mean by that is if you touch somebody, then they perceive how they feel after that happens. So if you touch somebody and they think it was inappropriate or wrong, then that's up to them. That always varies with culture, age, gender. So just always stay professional. When this critical thinking came up, it's why might greeting someone with a handshake be inappropriate in many situations in a healthcare facility? So it's something you think about in a healthcare facility. What are people there for? To be treated, right? They have some sort of illness. They have some sort of problem. And so they're there to get that problem resolved. There's a lot of germs floating around or pathogens. So if you're handshaking in a medical facility, Probably not the right thing to do. Fist bumps, elbows. When I was working in the hospital, we would just do head nods and smiles and thank yous. So keep that in mind. Another big important thing with communication is what they call active listening. You say, well, listening, active listening. Active listening is a means deciding to be fully attentive and understanding the speaker's intent. Okay. Eye contact is huge. Be open and willing to learn. Resist the judgment. We all bleed red. That's important to know. It doesn't matter what their language is, what their skin color is, what their education level is. Don't interrupt them. Show empathy and respect and give them feedback when they're completely done talking. Don't just butt in or interrupt them. Wait to give that feedback until they're done talking. Barriers to active listening could be some of the things we've talked about in class, but interruptions, anticipating the message, disagreeing with the message, inability to hear or understand the message, and lack of concentration. We talked about the 5 C's. If somebody's not clear and concise and credible, it's extremely important that they have those 3 things in order to get the respect that they need when talking. If you're listening to somebody and they're not being clear, concise, or credible, then you can tune them out. If they're not adhering to those 5 C's, definitely some of these things can come in. If I think I know what you're talking about, or you interrupt them. If you disagree with them, you tend to tune them out. Inability to hear or understand, or even if you have something personal going on and you're not completely focused to that active listening, then that's going to become an issue as well. So keep that in mind. Now we're on to written communication. This is the last part of the unit. Written communication is important. It is extremely important to understand how to proofread your spelling, your grammar, your accuracy. That's going to take credibility away from you in the medical community if you don't know how to appropriately write. Written communication requires the presentation of clear and logical thoughts. Grammar is an extremely important component of good writing. Proper spelling and punctuation are also important. Clear written instructions help minimize confusion and provide better patient care. Basically, think of everything before you put something out. If you're going to come up with a form of communication in a written form, an email telling somebody that, or telling your unit or your office or wherever you work or your team something, always come up with a who, what, where, when, why, and how of that message before you send it out. Always proofread that message and make sure that it makes sense to you, and in layman's terms, it'll make sense to somebody else to get that point across. One of the first things we talked about on day 1 was objective versus subjective writing, or just the concepts of objective versus subjective. And I talked about when we put ourselves in order from birth date order to then height order, that height is an objective thing we can see, and subjective is something that's a feeling, opinion, thought, personal. Okay, it's inside them. It's not something that we can see. It's a good way to think about it. Writing is based on evidence you can see and evaluate. Subjective emphasizes personal feelings. So if a patient said, my stomach hurts, that's a subjective thing. We can't see their stomach hurting. That's subjective. They say, I have a headache. Okay, that's subjective. They can say, my skin is red. That's objective because we can see that. We can evaluate that. So you have to know the difference in the medical world between objective and subjective. There's a video on the next slide we're not going to watch right now, but I encourage you to click on the link, pause the video, watch it, and then or go to the presentation in Canvas and watch the video. If you're having a difficult time differentiating between it, it gives some good examples. And that's the link I was talking about. Technical writing used in healthcare should include the writer's opinions and judgments. Is that a myth or a fact? Do 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 do. It's a myth, definitely a myth. You don't want to have your opinions and judgments Throw those away, leave them at the door, completely rid your mind of them. You want to completely focus on objective so the subjective can be avoided when you're dealing with technical writing in healthcare. You need to make sure that you have the exact description of what happened, including all details without embellishment, to create an accurate record. When I was working on an ambulance, we would go on calls. Okay, we'd go on calls, any type of call. Anytime we went on a call, we had to have a documented note of every single thing we did on that call. What time we got the call, what time we left the station, what time we got to the home, what time we left the home, or what time we made patient contact, what time we left the home. When we made patient contact, what did we see? What did we do? What did we hear? We had to document every single thing objectively. In that objective and subjective writing, we need to focus on writing an email. Writing an email is extremely huge portion of communication. Okay, and you're going to have a chance to do this exercise in class. If you haven't already, if you're watching this late, we did this exercise and I spoke about it. Keep your message focused. Do not send a message when you are angry. Proofread everything. Be courteous. There's your 5 C's. Remember that the email is not private. Anything you put on the internet is public record. Avoid using fancy fonts. Stick to your Times New Roman and your Arial fonts. Don't go trying to make it look pretty. Keep it professional. Pretty is not professional. When you begin an email, I'm going to go back real quick. When you begin an email, it's always with a direct title. So if you were to be sending an email to me, it'd be like, Dear Coach Conger, or Coach Conger, comma, space. I am not going to be able to attend class tomorrow. Please let me know what assignments I will be missing, and I will do my best to finish them on time. Period. Space, respectfully, or with respect, or sincerely, Johnny. And first and last name. You can even put a subject line, a signature line on there that has your name, email address, and best contact information. Especially in the professional world, you want to include faxes, numbers, emails, and phone numbers. So keep that in mind. Sending a fax, this is something that you maybe not be familiar with, but if you do work in a medical facility, it's one of the most secure ways that people send information. Many offices and facilities still use fax machines. When sending a fax, always include a cover page. That's a page in front saying who it's going to, what it means, and where it needs to go. What it is, not what it means, what it is and where it needs to go. It doesn't have pertinent information on there, though. It doesn't have social security numbers, birth dates, anything like that. That's all on the second page. Also has usually like a confidentiality statement on it, and it'll say like only this person can read these documents. When sending a fax, use a cover letter. Use discretion when faxing confidential information, and confirm that the fax was received. And that's really it for nonverbal and written communications. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope that you're enjoying it so far, the unit. And yeah, as it always, if you ever have any questions, reach out to me at any time.